I'm Bob Bradley. This is THE 101, Introduction to Theater and Drama Arts. My guest today is Enoch Morris, who is the Executive Director of the Juanita K. Hammonds Hall for the Performing Arts. Enoch has an MFA degree from Wayne State and worked in North Carolina before coming to Springfield, Missouri prior to the opening of the Juanita K. Hammonds Hall. So you came in what year?
89.
89, okay. And then you opened the Juanita K. Hammonds Hall. So explain to us, what is the Executive Director? What do you do?
Sometimes I wonder. I say I'm everything, including the janitor, many times in the evening.
Yes, we can all understand
You
that.
understand that. I guess my role, my goal is to set a vision for the hall, for what we're going to present as a part of the university, which includes part of the public affairs mission for the university. I consider the Juanita K. Hammonds Hall for the Performing Arts the largest classroom on campus, maybe the largest classroom in Springfield.
And the most expensive classroom.
Certainly the most
expensive, yes, okay.
As well, but it is a classroom.
Right.
It's an education. We have an educational mission. We're not just there to bring pop artists in, but also to learn from that. So I try to set a vision and a tone for the hall so that it not only answers the needs of just basic entertainment needs that our university community as well as the greater community, but also an educational mission for our university and provide the kind of artistic experiences that I would think a student of a metropolitan university like ours should experience during their 4 years of school. They should see a major symphony orchestra at some time in their college career. They should be able to experience quality dance, and as well as pops and Broadway and bluegrass and blues, name it all. And so what I try to do as a director is book those shows, oversee rentals. We have quite a few university organizations that use the hall, as well as community arts organizations that use the hall, and then then profit renters, commercial renters that also come in and use it. So we set an operational goal, a visionary goal for what we're to present and to be a part of our educational institution, and I guess that all falls back to the executive director's office.
Approximately how many nights in a year's time are you presenting something over there?
Well, I would say between 150 and 200. It all depends. We can have many more events than we have days in the year, because many times we'll have 3 or 4 events a day in the hall. A reception up on the upper level, a board meeting in the Fulner Lounge, a matinee and an evening performance, and that can happen all in a day. The whole 4th of July weekend, we might have a convention that's in town that is using the space in the summer, and so. It varies from year to year. Sometimes we do more, sometimes we do less, depending on what commercial entities are wanting to rent, what we can afford to bring in to the community, and what local not-for-profits want to use the facility. That's quite a few nights a year, as my wife will attest.
All right. In one sense, you are a producer, because you are the producer for the Juanita K. Hammonds. You are, I guess, however, what in the overall theater management business is called the presenter. And why don't you explain how does presenter fit into this whole sort of economic business of theater? Where do you fit into that? Where do these attractions come from, and how do you get to them? And
well, it's another place for an actor to get paid,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
and we're always happy for that. Presenter is a relatively new term. I mean, we used to be called arts managers, impresario, whatever, and a few years back they thought we were presenting the arts to communities, and that's what we're doing. Why don't we call ourselves presenters? And so it's been hard for me to get used to that as rather than a producer, like a little theater that might do a production,
Right.
like
In fact,
the theater
you do-
department.
Excuse me, but in my cases, you do no productions of your own, or seldom.
Seldom. Very
Seldom,
rarely.
right, right. So you are the presenter for.
Presenter of artists. I purchase the acts from agencies and individuals that put together acts and tour them. Okay. To the hall, to the region, to the as some have described our area, the flyover zone between the East Coast and the West Coast. We kind of ruffle our feathers at that term, but yeah, you know, and a lot of times people have called the facility that I manage a roadhouse. And it's usually within a demeaning term, you know, of, you know, that's just a place where they go in and they do shows and then they leave the next night. But I don't think that gives the credit to the people that are on the road working very hard. Sometimes most of the time, I think, very good actors, very hardworking actors that are dedicated their life to being on the road, you know, 250 days out of the year and performing. So I think it's important that they call us a presenter, that we offer a place in the economic scheme of things for actors to work. Many times it can be a very small performance with very new actors that are just coming out of college or have been a short time in New York and are cast in shows, and they get a chance, their first chance to go out on the road and practice their craft when they've got to perform night after night doing the same role for 50 weeks. You know, that's a challenge. Yeah. They hone their craft, their art, their craft, you know, in places like Springfield, Missouri, and Wichita, and Lincoln, Nebraska. And we provide a lot of employment for actors and technicians and scene designers, and, you know, for them a place to perform. But, you know, even, you know, a classical guitarist, ballet dancers, you name the genre, and we've got a place for them to perform. We do, in our series that we present, maybe 50 to 60 events a year. That's a lot of actors out there, a lot of performers, a lot of artists. And, you know, when you factor in their salaries and the taxes that they pay, and it's an economic benefit to our community to have these performers in here spending their money when they're in our community, as well as, you know, for the professions, them being paid as actors, because as you know, there are not very many paid actors these days. There are more unemployed.
Not nearly enough.
Not nearly enough.
How do you find them, or how do they find you, or how do you get them together? How do you get together? And
It happens from all strange different ways, but primarily there are several organizations. In our region, it's Mid-America Arts Alliance that has a convention every September that I go to, and they bring agents from the East Coast and the West Coast and everywhere in between together as like a trade show. Just like you would go down the aisle of a trade show and you'd buy widgets, we're buying artists. And of course, every agent thinks that their artist is going to sell out every facility that they want to talk to you about. And then there's another conference in New York. Those are primarily the ways. But after being in this business for 20 plus years, you develop a network of agents and that you work with, artists that you work with regularly, that you communicate with all the time. But you know, I remember I was in Washington, D.C. one time, and I heard a jazz artist singing at one of these, at the old post office there, and every hour was a new artist, and it was a local jazz artist, and she was just fabulous. And I ended up hiring her and brought her to North Carolina to do a full show. Another cabaret artist, Susanna McCorkle, brought her I saw her in a cabaret in New York. I brought her to North Carolina, and we became very, very close friends for a long time. And then I moved out here, and we lost touch. Wonderful entertainer. So
She's
it's
still recording.
yes, yes, that's true. And so you find them where you can. And bring them to, if you think that is going to be an important match with the rest of a season that you put together and fit within the genres that you're presenting.
Now, how do you begin to make these decisions? That is, where is your starting point? Obviously, what's available, but
Right.
but once you begin trying to, how do you make these pieces fit together?
Well, the first thing is the Broadway series. We set the Broadway series first because
Maybe you should explain the Broadway
and-
series is.
Is a series of 4 to 5 Broadway shows. Sometimes we're able to get mega hits like Cats or Les Mis, or and then we fit in some others that are non-equity or smaller productions that are not union, and form a season of Broadway shows that we think will answer a need for our community to give them a broad range of what's available. That's very hard because there's so, on two hands you can count the number of Broadway shows that are going to be touring at any one time. And and then you have to consider our market size, what people are willing to pay for a ticket here. What they'll pay for a ticket here is not as much as what they'll pay for the same show in Chicago or in Denver or even Kansas City or St. Louis. So, but because there's so little product in Broadway, we have to set that first, and we try to spread that out over the academic year from September to May. Once we get a pretty good handle on that, then we see, we can see what our product is that we have that we're going to be presenting in Broadway. How can we complement that with other genres, other kinds of music? There have been shows that have a kind of blues jazz feel, and we don't want to put blues or jazz right near that. We want to put it somewhere else. Then we have certain connections with arts groups here on campus, like the theater department and theater and music when they do their Broadway show in our facility. We want to make sure that there's not something that's competing right up against them that's of the same type. We do a jazz festival, or Jerry Hoover in the music department does a jazz festival, and we try to book the headliner in that series. We've had Wynton Marsalis and Chick Corea and Arturo Sandoval and lots of wonderful name artists that perform on Saturday night after they've had 2 days of jazz festival. So there's certain dates, and those are the hardest to book because they say, here is the date, fill it with a name.
Right.
And
Not much flexibility there.
Yeah, Wynton is not sitting at home going, when's Enoch going to call? And let's put him in here. So those are the hardest. But then you start looking at what's available. And like I said, every agency's got, I've got 15 artists. They're all perfect for your hall, and they're spaced out perfectly, and you should book all of my artists. Well, you develop relationships over the years working with agencies, so you want to keep those relationships going. So I try to look and see, can I get a couple from Columbia artists, one of the largest agencies. ICM is another agency I work with a lot. IMG, William Morris agencies in both New York, Beverly Hills, and country. They do out of Nashville. And then Monterey Peninsula artists out of California, as well as their Chicago office, as well as their Nashville office. You can't do something from every one, but I try to spread it around so that we don't say, pick all of our artists from one agency, and usually they don't have the kind of artists that we'd like. But then there are occasions that I have 2 artists that would work perfectly, and they're from the same agency. And then the other thing that complicates it even more is they say, and they're touring just a few days apart in your area. Right. So it is a massive crossword puzzle to try to work out where the artists are going to go, and where they're going to come from, what agencies I want to touch and work with, what genres do I want to present, and then it comes down to what is the price I'm willing to pay. So, you know, you usually got a backup when you say, okay, I want X artist, but I can only pay X amount of money. But I got a backup over here that I can get for that amount of money that would be all right if they won't deal with me. So there's a lot of negotiation in this. And a lot of what happens when booking it, and I kind of start in September, booking the series that would begin the next September.
And this is for the following year. This is not September for this year, but
it would be September of one year for the beginning season of September the next. And you know, you start talking about that artist and that tour, and you want to do that, and then by December the route has changed, because that artist has now decided they want to travel next spring, not in the fall. Or, you know, or that, and we've had that many a times happen. So you've got to be flexible in your calendar until you get to a point that you can just say, this is where it's set, confirm the date. And though this business is not handled on a handshake anymore, there is a sense of your word. It's very important that when they say it is confirmed and you say I am firm on it, then that's going to happen. Yeah. Occasionally it hasn't, but most of the time you've got a reputation. If I don't follow through on my word, then my reputation is not going to be one that artists want to work in this facility, or agencies want to call and give you an opportunity. When there are events that are traveling that you can pick up for less money on a short time notice, those are kind of fun too.
Maybe you need to explain that because sometimes it can be a very important factor, and that is how at a last minute you can pick up something which satisfies both you and the booking agency.
Exactly. Right now, in fact, I'm working on an event, several events, but we've booked our season for next year. And then we find out some of the artists that don't book a year in advance. That's another little problem, is that, you know, you call certain artists and they're the kind that decide a month out they're going to do a 2-week tour. And they call the agency and say, book me 2 weeks. And some of them can do that. But most of the, you know, once we get that season set, then we listen. We wait for that phone to ring when you find out that, you know, this big name artist is, this one that I'm thinking about right now is on tour with another artist, but the main artist is taking off for a week, and he's sitting in the middle of the Midwest with nothing to do. And he said, get me some single dates. And that's a month and a half away. Well, if they're willing to deal on the price, then we can kind of fit you in to an open Tuesday or an open Monday or something like that, and lessen our risk, and at the same time bring to our community an artist that might not come under normal circumstances because they're too expensive. So you pick up what they call en route dates. Right. They're en route. They're on there. They're going from
Chicago to Oklahoma City or whatever, or Chicago to Dallas, and
Dallas to Kansas City.
Right, and so Springfield is a very convenient stopping point.
Absolutely. So those I look for, and they're wonderful opportunities to give to our donors and our patrons and say, we got this special deal, you know, for you, you know, that we wouldn't normally get. So
financially, can you usually make that kind of that if you pick up somebody that's you haven't booked, you haven't really, you haven't certainly promoted within the season, but now you've got to do a special promotion for it.
Right. It's more difficult to book a single event and market that single event than having it within a season. You know, it's easier to do the season because you've got a lot more materials that are going out. You've gotten time to find underwriters to help you with that give you some donation to present that artist that they really like. But it is, but it adds to the season. you know, to having that artist on there, and makes for, you know, it just adds to the whole thing.
Now you have a I don't know what the title is, but a director of marketing, and while that person is responsible for that, let's talk a little bit about marketing and what it takes in order for you to market something, and how do you go about doing it?
Well, we do. We have 3 people that work on marketing primarily, a director of marketing and then 2 assistant directors of marketing that do other things as well. And, you know, we sit down. I don't make a decision on an artist until I've talked to the staff and we decide amongst ourselves that, you know, it's important to do.
And that perhaps you have some way of selling it.
Exactly.
There's got to be, if you can't sell it.
I mean, it comes down to that. You know, some people think it's just for the art, but you got to have butts and seats.
Right. Okay.
You know, and you got to have bucks in the box.
There we go.
So that you can pay that artist. And you know, I mean, they don't do it for free, though sometimes they would because they love doing it. But so we got to sit down and we look at what the market is for it here, and that's sometimes the problem that people see with Springfield is a smaller market. It's not Kansas City, it's not St. Louis, it's not even Little Rock or Memphis. You know, it's a smaller demographic, you know, a smaller population base. Demographics a little different, and so we have to look at what we think that'll do. Sometimes I equate it to, you know, we'll use your crystal ball or my crystal ball, but it's a guess. Hopefully we've done as much research as we possibly can to find out that the community does want to do it, want to see it, wants to buy tickets, and they will pay this price. They listen to this radio station for this artist. They read the newspaper or don't read the newspaper. They are more prone to this television station. They go to this music store. They go to this club. You know, and those are the places where we try to reach that group. We target our marketing to the particular group that we think is going to enjoy this artist. Now, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, I've had it before where we've really done our homework and nobody came.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I've been there sometimes and wondered, where was everybody? Why weren't they here to see this particular person?
It can just really surprise you sometimes.
Right.
But then I've been surprised on the other side. When last year we had a couple artists we put together, and when that internet has gotten on and that starts clicking, you go, I think we got something here, and then you end up selling the house out, and you expected to do 1,000 seats. So.
And we should point out that all of this marketing is not free.
No.
And most of it isn't. Every once in a while you may come up with something that's a free gimmick, but in most cases you are paying for this, and so that has to be figured into your overall cost. That it's not just the fact that the artist is going to cost this much. Do you have a figure of that beyond the cost of the artist, that it's going to cost you 50% more than that, or?
Everyone is so different, Bob. It's so different because you don't know whether if you're paying $10,000 for an act or $35,000 for an act. It's just really different. Whether they want 9 horns, you know, and they want breakfast, lunch, dinner, and bus food afterwards.
Okay, maybe we should explain this. Certain contracts require that you do what kinds of things in addition to just walking on stage? What else do you get?
We've been through an awful lot, and we do regularly have to go through those contracts, and that's always a part of the negotiation. Whether, you know, they want the sound that's going to fill an 18,000 seat arena, but they want it in our 2,200 seat hall. We've got to say, look, this is not reasonable. But then, you know, we look at those riders that's the rider that comes attached with the contract. We always ask for that before we do a price sheet or a budget estimate on each artist to see whether, you know, they're wanting breakfast for 50 and lunch for 60 and then, you know, dinner for all these other people. And then they want food to be put on their bus so that as soon as they finish, they get on the bus and they can eat their food under the next gig. and it's sometimes disconcerting, but there are ways that we can buy out on the food and just give them a little bit of money. The ways that we can negotiate and say, if you want to play this market because you're en route and you're stuck and you're going to be sitting in a motel one night not making anything, then cut out the bus food, cut out all the sound. We're not providing hotel rooms. As being a part of the university, we cut out all alcohol, all liquor in any way. And then we just say there are things we can do and things we can't do. I'm convinced that these riders are written by agents because they're saying, look what I can get you. Look what I can get you, even though, they don't need it. They don't want it.
Yeah.
We've had too many. I've had a whole bus full of artists. They were coming in. We had a huge setup of vegetarian dinners, and we probably spent, $1,000, $1,500 on food. They drove by Steak and Shake. They hadn't seen a Steak and Shake since they've been out on the road. They all stopped and ate at Steak and Shake. Now, it doesn't matter to them. They don't care.
Yeah.
And the agent got what he wanted. And
You
we
could have
had
just taken a Steak and Shake and been a lot better off.
I'd have been a lot better off. I'd have gotten by less than $10 a head. No, but those are the things you have to deal with. But my feeling on that is, those are artists, again, getting back to, they're spending their life on the road. That's tough, living out of a suitcase, living out of a bus, and you want them happy when they come to your hall, and you want them to leave happy because they're going to tell other artists about you. Also, if they come in mad because they didn't get this and they didn't get this, what do you think the performance is going to be like? I can see that 75-minute performance turning into 60 minutes real quick, or less. Now, but I've had the other side happen. This one artist was mad we couldn't do anything right, and he was supposed to do 75, 80 minutes, and he played for 3 hours. And you kind of was going, will you get off the stage? But it was a dynamite concert. But those are the kind of things that you have to deal with, the personalities. I have a rider that's in my box at work, and it's Frank Sinatra's rider. And we had talked about having Frank Sinatra here at Hammond Student Center many, many years ago. And this rider is incredible. Fifths of vodka and bourbon, and he didn't care whether you're college or what.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. You didn't have this. Jumbo shrimp and caviar and a couple of cartons of smokes like Camels and Lucky's and that sort of thing. And he was traveling with Don Rickles at the time, so you had to have the same thing for Don Rickles' dressing room as well. It was absolutely hilarious, and Dom Perignon and wine. But I always like to look at it and think, well, I think we could have paid for that if we could have gotten him here. That was like, within his last 6 months before he quit touring completely and then died. So that's an interesting part of the business, which can be fun and easy. It can be very difficult.
Give us, and you don't have to do specific figures, but I think many people don't begin to understand why tickets cost what they do. There was an interesting article in the New York Times, I don't know, sometime in the last year or so, called, and this was taking that a theater ticket was $100, where your $100 goes. And it divided it up and literally telling you, okay, out of your $100, $10 goes for this and $5 goes for this, but what does it cost? Let's say, what did it cost to bring in, let's say you've had Les Mis, when you had the touring production of Les Miserables twice. What did it cost? What was the contract price approximately?
Okay. We've had it twice. We had it about 4 years in between. It was, these are broad figures. I think it was like $395,000. That's for a week for eight performances. And that's Tuesday through Sunday night. That was the first time. It went up almost $100,000 in the 4 years in between. Now, and that's just the beginning. It was $395. I think we ended up at 525 is how much we brought in, 525,000 on that first time. So, you know, once they get, and then there's overages, or what we call the back end. After we reach a point, there's a little bit of presenter profit, and I mean a little bit, $5,000. On a $395,000 gig, the first monies go to the show, to the Broadway show. Then we would get a maybe $5,000 presenter profit, you know, and then expenses, you know, pay for the advertising and that sort of thing. And then they would get 70%, we get 30%.
So after you get to a certain, after you get your expenses and beyond this point, then at that point, the box office, they get 70% of that, and you only got 30.
30%. It's a terribly unfair deal. In fact, on Les Mis, I would venture to say, if you looked at our books, it looked like we lost money. Now, we made maybe a little bit. But the thing with having a Les Mis, or eventually one of these years Phantom or something like that, that helps you sell the season. And that's why we sell a Broadway season. Because people want to see Les Mis, they might not be as excited about Oklahoma or Meet Me in St. Louis or, you know, whatever, but they buy the package, okay? We make some money on the other shows because Les Mis is, in the marketing people will hear, a loss leader, you know, or a break even. Beauty and the Beast, you know, another incredibly expensive show.
What was it?
It's almost $400,000. You know, they're all about $400,000.
And what were you, and do you remember what approximately, what was your single ticket price at?
I think with, on the second time with Les Mis, I think we hit 60. And with
Is that about the highest single price?
Beauty and the Beast, I think we hit 65.
65.
65. Okay. But, you know, I remember the first time we had Les Mis, I think our top ticket was 55. And it left here, the exact same production, drove straight to Chicago, and was $75 a ticket. You know, and now it leaves here and goes to a major city, and it's $100 a ticket, and we're still charging 65. You know, we don't, and they're paying the same price. They're not getting any cheaper or anything, or we're not getting any cheaper. It's the same thing. And I had a fellow say something to me after Beauty and the Beast. Number one, he was not happy about having to pay such enormous prices to come see a kid show. And then when
some real kid show.
Some real kid show. Well, that was his comment afterwards. You know, he said, I could not imagine why you charged me so much money for a show like Beauty and the Beast or Cats or Les Mis or whatever. And he said, after seeing it, my eyes were just bugged out, and I realized what all that money went for. You know, the quality of the actors, the quality of the set, the quality of the music, the costumes, everything. It makes for an incredible experience. Yes, it's very expensive, but it's very expensive to put this quality performer out on the road. We had, to give you an example, we gauge kind of what the cost of a Broadway show is going to be by how many trucks come.
Oh, yeah, yes.
5...
Maybe you should explain, and that is?
Tractor-trailer trucks that bring the scenery and costumes and lights and all that. Cats was a 5-truck show. It is a 5-truck show. 5 tractor-trailer trucks all backed up, loading out scenery for 8 hours. And then we open that night, sometimes the day before. Usually they come in on Monday and we open on Tuesday night when we run a week. Les Mis was 7.
7 trucks.
Trucks, okay. Let me think. Titanic got up to 10 trucks. Les Mis, let's see, Beauty and the Beast was 13 trucks. And Phantom, as it is right now on the road, the biggest we've had is 13 trucks. Phantom right now is 28 trucks. 28. So go from 13 to 28, you can see how much more scenery, costumes, lights, that they have to travel with. I mean, just simply paying the Teamsters union rate to have those trucks driven around from place to place.
And then, of course, and I think the thing that many people don't understand is there may be as many people running the show backstage
Right.
as they're seeing on stage. I remember, was it Les Mis that I was backstage for, and everything was laid out, and there were as many costume people working, just helping to get those costume changes made and everything.
We end up having to have provide 50 to 60 workers during that load-in period, maybe running the show some and loading out. So,
And then they've got
their people.
they've got X number of crew that they bring, which sometimes exceeds the number of people.
Absolutely, many times does.
And all of those people are expecting salaries every week, or they're hoping to get salaries every week.
And they do quite well.
Yes. Right, but that still means that that production is going to cost an enormous amount of money, just to make the weekly expenses. And so you pay a booking price for it, which goes to help meet those expenses, and then you've got to sell the tickets so that you can make the
overage.
right.
And many times they will not come to a market unless their marketing people feel like that there is overage, that you are going to meet the minimum, pay the bills, pay the fee, and there's the potential for them to make a lot of money on the other side of it. Now, when you get into some of the rock acts and that sort of thing, it's an 85-15. There's even one that I tried to negotiate for that ended up going to another promoter because I wasn't going to do it, 95-5.
Meaning they took 95%.
The box office.
And is this after expenses?
Well,
I mean, you've got to.
yeah, they're going to have some expenses in there,
Right,
but
well,
that's
but what your
yeah.
expenses are. And so forth.
Yeah, the expenses of the stagehands
Right,
and
yeah.
the lights and the advertising and that sort of thing. But they take 95-5. I mean, it leaves you with crumbs, you know, in our position. But, you know, if we could have those stars here on our campus, you know, it's nice to see Bill Cosby, you know, Bob Hope, you know, those kind of names at some of these, at our venues. That's kind of why performing arts centers over the years, really, there aren't many independent performing arts centers. They're usually built in either connection with a city, more prevalently with a university, where there can be a private-public kind of partnership to get those built, because they don't make money like a theater maybe that's in Branson that's running the same act over and over again, 12 performances a week, and they have a bus traffic and it's the same show. We're trying to do different things. We have a different mission, and so it's not gonna make money unless you change the philosophy of what the facility is and what the university is, and I don't think that's going to happen.
I want to point out, because we are sort of talking about the whole economic structure here, and that is this 95-5 is not something so terribly unusual that in movie theaters, I don't know, I haven't seen it recently, but first-run movie theaters frequently run about along the same way, and that is the distributor, movie maker is going to get 95% of the box office, and the local theater is going to take in 5%. That's why the popcorn costs what it does, because that's where you're going to have to sell lots of popcorn.
You sell lots of popcorn. Well, the more bodies in there, and they've got it figured out to a science of how many people and how much money per person is going to be sold in popcorn and drinks and that sort of thing. And in the big Sandstone and Bonner Springs and all those outdoor venues, that's why the beer money is so important to the facility, because that's where they make their money. A lot of times their rent, or they're trying to get people in there to perform, they don't charge them very much for that, because they're going to make it on the other. Even at Hammond Student Center, it is not unusual when you have a big country act in there for Hammond Student Center to make $25,000 on merchandise sales, and that's only 25% of what they sold. So you can make some significant money there. You know, we can too, depending on if it's a popular act that, Tony Bennett is not going to do that, but a hot rock act or something like that, we've had them sell out of everything that they had. And we get a percentage of what that is. That's another way for help us manage the facility, and not charge as much on tickets and that sort of thing.
Is Tony Bennett going to be in the lobby afterwards?
Signing autographs? I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
However, I did get very amused when I was in New York not too long ago. I went over to the Oak Room at the Algonquin Hotel. Now, the Algonquin Hotel, of course, is one of the long-time, very famous hotels in New York, and the Oak Room is one of the famous cabaret spots. And the artist that I was seeing, and we were seeing the second show that night, and which started at 11 o'clock and got out, well, it didn't start about 11:30 and got out, shortly after 1. And there she was. She was in the lobby. Her assistant had gotten out there, laid out all her CDs, and she was out there in the lobby willing to talk and sign away those CDs. So, yeah.
It's just kind of like Branson.
I thought, I am at home. I cannot believe that I'm walking through the lobby of the Algonquin Hotel, and here we are. Branson is right here with us.
Well, it happens all the time. It's a way for them to make extra money on their tour. And Janice Ian came out, signed every autograph, talked to every person. Dizzy Gillespie would not leave until the last person left, and he had signed an autograph, talked to somebody, whether it's a 10-year-old kid who's just taken up the trumpet, just amazing.
I haven't seen David Copperfield in several years. He used to be pretty good about that. Does he still?
He used to, but he just had to stop it. He just can't. He does 2 shows every day, and it was wearing him out.
Well, this was even before Juanita's opened that I saw him in St. Louis at that point at the Fox.
Yeah.
And you came out to the lobby, and if you wanted there, he was ready, and they had this line, it was all set up, and he was signing every single, I guess he stayed there until every single person that line would work.
There was a scribble there that you knew that he did.
That's right. And he was certainly being engaging, but his assistant was moving on, being sure that this was going to happen. Yeah. And I think all of these are factors that play into that the public never thinks about. That is all part of the business.
Right. In fact, we have a lady that teaches dance here that was one of David Copperfield's assistants. And worked with him for many years, So there's a crossover, come in to teach dance, and they worked with David Copperfield. So that you go back and forth between the pops to true art performers.
And I think this is one of the things. And while this course is certainly concerned with the art of, but the art of, and especially when you get to performing arts, and especially when you get to theater, that audience has to be out there. Because if the audience isn't there, it's not happening.
Right.
And what you do and your functions are to see to it that you make the public aware of what is coming in, of enticing them in some way or the other, and getting them to come in and maybe to experience something they might not have experienced otherwise. And so what you are doing, which I'm sure the public is by no means frequently not aware of, how important the functions are that you have to perform. You can't just depend on opening the doors and they will come.
It's very, very different than that. We wished it would, but then there are instances when that kind of thing does happen, that we don't expect something to be such a big seller and really hot with people. Children's show we were just talking about a minute ago, that just went wild. So, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of time to plan. But we think we provide an avenue for artists to perform that they wouldn't have otherwise, and hopefully on a college campus, an experience for the college student.
There's another thing here which I'm sure many people are not aware, and let's talk specifically about Juanita. Juanita's, which is Juanita K. Hammond's Hall for Performing Arts. How do you go about getting tickets? Many people have no idea how you buy tickets.
Well, we have, it's much easier even now than it even used to be when we first opened, because we have a system here on campus called SMS Tix. And that is ticketing it's a unified ticketing system for the entire campus, where you can buy your tickets for both Juanita K. Hammond's Hall for the Performing Arts. I have to say the whole thing.
Yeah, all right.
Hammond Student Center, Craig Hall, Tent Theater, and sometimes, all the time, football, basketball, volleyball, anything that's ticketed pretty much on this campus you can buy. And we have 4 box offices, one at the Hall, one at Hammond Student Center, one at Plaster Sports Complex, in football season.
Right.
One at Plaster Student Union during the academic year, and at Craig Hall. So there are 4 different locations that you can pick up tickets at any time for any of these venues, and you can buy anything at any of those venues. We have special student prices. Many times on the events at Hammond's Hall, we'll have student rush tickets. Any remaining seats half hour before curtain can be sold for a greatly reduced price, usually about $10. If you want to plan ahead, and then you can call ahead. There are student prices that you can buy ahead and save on. Faculty and staff have discounts on most all events. The ones that our hands are tied are when we're doing a percentage deal. If it's not a flat fee, it's a percentage deal, then they won't allow us to give a lot of discounts, so we can't. Broadway is a lot like that. Until the very last, if we need to fill up some seats, we'll have student rush, or we'll do a last-minute faculty discount or something like that. That's the way you call, and it's really easy, 836-SMSU, or if you're out of town, 1-888-4, the number 4, SMS-TIX.
And then now you have internet.
Internet.
Now you can go online.
SMSTix.com or HammondsHall.com, and then you can buy tickets online. It does cost more to buy it online because it's a convenience fee. We've been fussed at before because it costs so much money, but you can sit in your fuzzy pink slippers at 2 o'clock in the morning and buy tickets if you want. And for that benefit, it costs a little extra money.
Oh, wow.
So, but we've had a great increase. In fact, in the virtually the first year, 92% of the people buying tickets at Hammond's Hall on the internet were new customers. They had never bought a ticket at the hall before. They were not in the system, and we have the names of everybody that's bought a ticket since 1992 in there. So we think it's really a coming of age here at SMS.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate your being here, and I hope opening some people's eyes to the economics that come into play here, and why sometimes the cost seems to be what it is, and there are reasons to why it costs what it does.
Exactly.
Right.
Thank you very much, Bob, for inviting me.
Appreciate it.